Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Semi-Pro. I'm Dalton Barrett, and in the studio with me, I've got my good friend.
Hi, I'm Josh Clements, and tonight we watched Doom Annihilation because we hate ourselves.
Honestly, all right, we got to save it for the discussion. Yes, we did watch Doom Annihilation. I thought we'll talk about it in just a
It,
second.
it, it was fine.
It was completely fine. Full spoiler warning for Doom Annihilation. We're going to talk about it here on this episode of Semi-Pro. All right, Josh, we're here. We're ready. We're raring. We're talking about Doom 2 Annihilation. Except for it's not a sequel to Doom 2005. It's literally just a different Doom movie.
Well, I mean, it's certainly something that was made by people who had seen Doom.
Or played it once. They probably did see Doom 2005. I feel like there were some references to it, unless they were just game references that...
Well, yeah. So there was a lot of game references in this, which I was kind of surprised to see because I thought this was going to be one of those like cash grabby sort of. Oh, they just made it because they had access to the title and they're like, yeah, why not? We can get some money out of this. But then there was a surprising amount of game references. That said, like the best way I could describe it would be a high budget fan film.
Oh. That's the first time in recorded history that this movie has ever been described as high budget anything.
Okay, yeah, a high budget for a fan film.
But there, I see. I would just say fan film. But yeah, you're probably right. The thing about this movie is, and I'm just going to say this up front before we get into spoilers. This movie with a like reasonable operating film budget would have been really, really good. I think had this movie had like a full budget and like a full theatrical release and all of that, the things that come with, you know, like movies as we know them, instead of giving the budget of like one episode of House and the actors who played the bit parts in House.
And whatever money they had in their pockets at the time.
Right. All the actors were paid by food on set, and if it had like actual money put into it, I really genuinely think this would have been a really good movie. Because the story is solid, and it's a really good adaptation of the game. I think there's a lot of good stuff going for this movie. I really like the creature design. It's just really, really hindered by the budget. It was direct to video. It didn't have a theatrical release or run anywhere. It's not like a Netflix original. So that is a huge hindrance on the movie. But other than that, you take the budgetary issues out, I really think it's pretty solid.
I mean, yeah. Well, like I say, I was pleasantly surprised by a lot of this movie. I was expecting it much like much like Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I was expecting much worse from it. And then I watched it. I was like, hey, this is kind of neat. Like the actual effects, a lot of the time, are kind of solid. Some of the creature designs are like genuinely. I was like, hey, that could be in a movie.
Well, yeah, I especially like the look that they gave all of the demons.
Also, it was shot like kind of smartly, because like we'll jump into it in a minute, but like a lot of the lower demons, so to speak, are just humans who have been turned into zombies, which is taken from the games. But because of that, you can have like maybe two or three, and then you just have them wear lab coats, and you can reuse those two or three guys over and over again. You get the feeling of, oh, there's 80, 100 people in the space.
And they did.
They did that many times, in fact.
Several times, in fact. I really like the design of the imps in this.
Yes. They felt a bit. They felt kind of. This is a nitpick from me. It's like a fanboy at Doom. They felt kind of bulky, but also they were good enough.
And they were practical, which I respect.
Yeah, they were practical, which I was genuinely shocked by. I was
Oh,
like,
I wasn't. It's much cheaper for this movie to put a guy in a rubber suit than it is to get convincing looking CGI to fight your heroes. I was not shocked at all by that, but they looked good until they started moving, and then they looked a little rubbery. But like I said, kind of all in all, there are some huge budgetary issues that this movie has going on, and it really shows in the acting. I think that's the worst part of this movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of like, oh no, or like the easily hateable people are just like they're not charismatic enough for me to hate them, but also want to see them evolve. They're just like, it's just one Australian dude who hates everything, and he's a coward and runs away from every fight.
And he believes in aliens for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, we should probably talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I do want to talk about that. I want to talk about my favorite budgetary restraint before we move on to actually talking spoilers and about the plot of this movie and those sorts of things.
What's your favorite budgetary constraint?
My favorite budgetary constraint in the whole movie is the chaplain, the priest, who instead of wearing like a priest collar that you can pick up for $15 at your local like Lifeway store,
you can get from just like cutting a piece of paper out and sticking it under a collar.
Yes, you can get a black button-down shirt and put a piece of white paper there. They put him in a white t-shirt with a slightly larger black t-shirt over it, and then a suit coat on top of that. And it's the most beautiful visual you've ever seen in your life, because he's supposed to be like a priest.
Well, my full confession is I did not realize that he was meant to be a priest until about 5 minutes before the end.
That's why it took me so long to realize it. I thought it at first. I was like, oh, that kind of looks like a priest uniform. And then I just kind of forgot about it until he started talking about like faith and whatever. And I was like, I see something. And then she calls him the chaplain, and I was like, got it. Like it.
It wasn't until he's talking to that Marine guy and he's like, yeah, I used to be a Marine too. And I was like, oh, wait, is he not one of the Marines? Because that's all I thought.
That was my favorite one, because you can buy a Halloween costume of that and just use the shirt.
You don't even need a Halloween. Like they say, you just need a black button-up shirt and a tiny slip of paper that you can cut. And then you slip that on, boom, done. A tiny bit of card, even. And
they're like $15. Like the shirts themselves are not expensive, and we're talking about an even cheaper way to do it. You find them at Goodwill's a lot. Like it would have been so easy, but nope. White t-shirt, black t-shirt on top. There's a lot of little things like that in this movie.
Yeah. Well, that, like I said, the budgetary constraints are really what bogs the movie down. Everything else is kind of like the budgetary constraints. Because also mean that like it's not filmed great. There's a lot of cuts and stuff because they they wanted to hide a lot of things, so to speak.
They didn't choreograph a single fight, so they decided they decided to hide everything.
Yeah, there's a lot of like guns that don't have any kind of impact, so they just stand there and go bap 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 bap.
There's a lot of one of the things that I noticed. There's a lot of just like weightless things. Most of the props feel very weightless. There's no choreographing because they didn't choreograph any of the action sequences. The camera angles themselves didn't seem all that bad. It seems like the majority of the issues come in editing. Versus coming in filming. So that part itself was I wouldn't put on the director. The best way I can describe this movie is like a sci-fi original, like a
it's very like TV movie budget kind of thing.
Yeah, like Asylum Pictures, that kind of thing. It's got that same feel to it, but less.
It feels like a Sharknado because it has actual heart into it.
But I wouldn't say that Sharknado exactly has actual heart, Josh.
But I think the first one did. I like to believe that. I like to believe that it did.
When was the last time you saw Sharknado, Josh?
I've never seen it.
Okay.
This is, in my imagination. I like to believe that it had some kind of heart.
These are usually my least favorite kinds of movies. I like movies with a significantly lower budget than this, and I like movies with a significantly higher budget than this. This is usually
Like
like my least favorite kind of movie, but this one
it's very
I
middle
enjoyed.
ground. Yeah.
Right.
It's very like it's not so low budget that it's funny, but it's also not so high budget that it's good. That
Correct.
said, I did like most of this movie for the most part.
Yeah, no, there are
Um,
some issues from a storytelling perspective. I liked this. I liked this story. I liked these characters. There was nothing really in the movie where I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't really like this. And so,
yeah,
outside of the acting really got under my skin.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's better than Doom 2005, which is kind of funny because it also starts in the same way that Doom 2005 kind of does, where it's just like, hey, there's a teleporter in Vegas, you
Yes,
know,
I
as
that
a
was one of the things that I thought may have been a reference to Doom 2005. Because I don't remember a teleporter like that from the games. Um,
there's the teleporters don't look like that in the games, but there's teleporters, but I don't think they go to Vegas. They don't go to Nevada at least. I
they don't
might
go
be
from
wrong
Earth
there.
to Mars.
Right, yeah. I might be wrong there, but I don't think they do. But yeah, there's teleporters in this, and that's actually, that's how the movie starts off. It's like, hey, we're gonna try this out, and there's more jelly because that might be a reference to Doom 2005 because it looks like the same kind of effect, where
Yeah.
it's just like
Or
a
it's
glob.
that's the cheapest effect that they had for a teleporter, so they used it. I mean, that's also
Right,
a huge possibility.
right, no, absolutely. And they send a dude through it, uh, and he comes out in Mars, and they're all cheering and stuff, and they're really happy, and none of them notice that this guy's like drooling from the mouth with bile and blood, and that his eyes have gone all red, and that he's got grey skin and he's growling.
Which doesn't make sense in light of the rest of the movie, but I'll forgive it because it's your opening reveal. But it really doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Because nobody in
and
this
there's a
movie, like they're the quote unquote zombie mans. That's what they call them in the game. They get turned into demons, but because they were bitten by imps.
well, the imps in this one have a like they suck your soul kind of thing, like very very Shang Tsung. They
Yes, but
just
a
like
much better effect.
like he doesn't. There's no imp that goes that says your soul is mine, and then just kind of some green stuff flies into him. It's white stuff instead.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, there's a guy in the open scene on Mars who you look at him, you're just like, yeah, he's gonna be evil.
Oh yeah,
There's no chance that he isn't.
he is the bad guy of this movie, and you can tell it from the first time he's on screen. He's the insistent scientist, who is
Yeah,
almost always the bad guy of these types of movies, these like lower budget movies. It's always the scientist who is too insistent on his theory that he won't realize that the thing has gone bad,
he
which is
also
just a horrible
he
trope.
he looks like the guy who played Raiden in Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Like I had to check IMDb because I thought it was the same guy for a solid 5-10 minutes. And then the movie shifts gears and it becomes Alien for about 10-15 minutes.
This
Because
movie
now
felt
you're on
very alien throughout the whole thing, which isn't a
yeah,
horrible way to do a Doom movie because Alien is sort of action horror, which is really what you're looking for from Doom.
yeah.
But
They've got very similar aesthetics, I'll say. Like they've got that very sort of dingy, dark hallways that you couldn't tell what's in them until you walk into them and suddenly you're ambushed by 50 aliens.
so our main character, we'll call her Doom Lady because I can't remember her name.
I don't. Did I do?
She does have a
her
name.
name's like it's like Lieutenant something.
Yeah,
Lieutenant Doom Lady.
Joan. Joan is her name.
Joan Dark because
That's
it's Joan of the
Joan of
Joan.
Dark. Joan of D Arc.
Yeah, that I looked up. That's why they named it. It's so stupid. It's
That
up
is
there with
dumb.
War and Peace. It's up there with War and Peace is one of my favorite names. But yeah, Joan Dark. She's on the ship with a bunch of other crew members, and they're all like joking and laughing because they just got out of cryo sleep and they're having meals or whatever. It's like I say, very alien. I feel like every movie that has a scene where it's like, oh, you're in space and you're eating food is alien referenced.
Yes.
you can never escape that for some
Even
reason.
movies that came out pre-Alien.
Yeah, even movies that came out pre-Alien, they were made by Alien. It's the Zack Snyder effect. You
Right.
know, Zack Snyder invented cinema.
Right. Zack Snyder's the
Um,
blueprint for real, for real. Alien is the blueprint for real, for real.
yeah, they're all talking. They all seem like horrible people. Um, and then Joan Dark walks in, and they all leave. So you're like, oh, they don't like us.
Yeah, they make it very clear they do not like their boss. And they don't like, normally when your boss walks into a room, because nobody likes their boss, you pretend like you hide it. They don't.
Yeah,
They straight up
no, no.
leave the room.
They say something like, "Oh, we've got a simulation we need to run," without the person who's leading their squad.
Yeah, I think they
Which
go.
is
I think they say like, "Oh, let's go be debriefed," and it's like, this woman's trying to eat her oatmeal. Like, wait on her before you go get your briefing for your mission.
oh, and there's one other dude too. There's the scientist dude who she
Scientist man.
dated. Yeah, the scientist man and Doom Lady who dated 10 years ago for like 4 months, and he asked her about it, and she was like, "Oh, we only went out for a week,"
His
which
name
I don't.
is Dr. Bennett Stone, I think.
That's a pure 80s like that's a name that could be in a Die Hard sequel.
Yes, absolutely, it could be.
Oh, that's great. I love it.
Yeah. So he's
They
there. Turns out they dated. They've got some romantic history, and it's like it's a will they won't they thing for the rest of the movie. The dumbest will they won't they thing in history.
They forget about it until literally the last 5 minutes.
Well, it always feels like he's got a will they won't they thing going on, and she never feels like she cares about him whatsoever.
Well, yeah, she's moved on. He's for some reason he's also I don't know. It feels really weird. Like it's just pure coincidence that he happens to be on this mission led by this person that he dated 10 years ago.
Yeah, it is very, very, very circumstantial. He was
And it's also very
apparently.
quick.
We find out later in the movie he was also a trained Marine, and he dropped out of the forces to become a scientist or something.
Scientist.
Even though in this scene they don't mention that, and he says that he's always been a scientist. So,
And the crew hate him as well because he's a scientist and they're all Marines.
yeah, and he's easily the worst actor in the movie. He's the one who always is like, yeah, they pulled you straight from like the bottom of the barrel of cheapest people they could get for this. Like they needed a handsome guy, and they got you.
Remember, he's actually he was the only one that I recall being in something of like note.
He's a British actor, which I think played into it because he was doing an American accent for this movie. So you probably know him
So
from
he's
like
probably in Doctor Who.
probably he was almost definitely in Doctor Who. I'm gonna look it up.
My girlfriend started watching Doctor Who, and I had to tell her because she was surprised that Andrew Garfield was in it, I think. And I had to tell her like, oh yeah, if there's a British actor, they've been in Doctor Who. Like no matter who they are, you can't escape Doctor Who. It will always come for you.
They're always in Doctor Who. Everybody has been in Doctor Who.
Oh, he was in Captain America.
Ah, okay. Who did he play in Captain America?
Army Heckler, the leading role. But yeah,
He was in Doctor Who audiobooks. He did some voices for some Doctor Who
oh, so not even the main show.
No, he was in he voiced in some Sixth Doctor audiobooks. He voiced the Doctor's companion.
Wow. Man, this stacks cast.
Man. But so he's the worst one in the whole movie for me. And I would say that's in part due to the fact that he was doing an American accent and he's not an American actor. When you get a low budget guy like that doing an American accent, and I didn't know he was British, so he did a pretty good job, but I think it was hard for him to act through it.
I didn't know he was British, and I thought he was American. So that was a good accent.
Yeah,
but yeah,
props to
like
him.
I say, it
Oh,
was
I
one
know,
of-
Josh. He was in Dominion.
Do you wanna come again for Big Fudge?
Have you seen Dominion?
I don't believe I've seen
I
Dominion.
figured Dominion was one of the shows that you've told me to watch, and I saw Dominion in his itinerary, so I was like, okay, yeah, he was in Dominion.
I mean, I'm looking up now and it looks kind of cool. So, I might, I might have found a new show to pick up. But yeah, the Chernobyl did this.
Also, ironically enough, he was in a show called Toy Gun because every gun in this movie looks like a toy. Anyway, okay, you can continue. I'm done. I'm done talking about Luke Allen Gale.
Famous actor Luke Allen Gale. He's going to be it's his breakout role.
He's going to be a star.
But Chernobyl took the plunge and they were like, oh, we don't want any actors to do Russian accents. We just want them to use their own. And it works most of the time because if you focus on doing an accent, you're not focusing as much on your actual acting.
Right.
So you kind of lose a bit of that, which, like I say, might have been the case.
So after we're introduced to the two of them, we get our briefing. Turns out that all of our Marines are going to the moon of Mars, Phobos, or Phobos,
Yes.
as I've always heard it in real life, but in this movie they call it Phobos.
Symbiote.
Right. And so they're going there.
I do want to say the captain looks exactly like Doom Guy from the games. Like really
Honestly,
so
yeah.
because he's got like the square head, the really broad like muscly body. Like he even at one point he picks out like the double-barreled shotgun. Like
He also
he
looks
should have been
like
Doom Guy.
he looks like the teacher from Starship Troopers.
Yes. Michael Ironside.
Yes, he looks like Michael Ironside, young Michael Ironside a lot. He's like low budget Michael Ironside.
Low budget Michael Ironside.
Right. If Michael Ironside was if you could get him for $15, that would be this guy.
He's also British.
This may have been a British production for all I know.
Right. No. The more I'm looking at this, the more I'm convinced it probably was.
And that also makes more sense.
Guy,
It feels
the
very
scientist
Doctor
guy,
Who.
he's British. Yes. Yeah. It did. It really did. I've been rewatching that recently too, and it's like a lot of the sets feel like a Doctor Who set, especially with the way it's shot as well, where like it's very. I don't want to say bland, but it's very like there's no stylized anything to it. It's just kind of like, oh, we'll follow these guys along the hallway and then we'll show this room.
I will say this:
very low budget.
the sets felt very like classic Doom. The hallways all looked like if the hallways in Doom, because you spend most of Doom walking through hallways. The first two games,
Right.
if those looked clean, they would look like what this movie looks like. Now they're really dirty and dingy in those movies or in those games, and in this they're not, just because it's a fresh attack. But all of the little detailing and stuff, and those little yellow lights around the bottom, and that all felt very classic Doom to me. Everything else in this movie feels really Doom 2016 inspired, but that stuff felt very like classic Doom.
There's also this is why I say it feels kind of like a fan film, because it feels like it was made by people who actually like Doom, the franchise, the series. The ship computer that they're all on, that the Marines are traveling on, is called Daisy, which in canon is the Doom guy's pet rabbit.
Amazing.
Which is like, that's a nice little reference. I respect that. And
so. All right, we're getting derailed. There are a lot of little details in this movie that are really fun if you're a fan of the games. After we get debriefed on what's going on Phobos, which could be a British way to pronounce Phobos for all I know.
No, I learned it's Phobos.
Oh, okay, got it. It sounds like if you say Phobos with a British accent. Oi, Phobos. So after we learn that that's where we're going, it doesn't really make sense because it says that they're answering the distress call, but that just happened and they've been in cryosleep for 4 months. So I'm really confused in that regard, but you can overlook that. It's literally the linchpin for the movie, but you can overlook it. And so we're going.
This movie actually had establishing shots. Like when she got to Mars,
dude, Mars looks gorgeous. It looks, and all the ships for all that they are. I mean, they're really low budget. They're neatly designed. They're kind of generic, but you get to see the surface of Mars, and that's all I really wanted. And then later you get to see actual hell, which is super neat. Like like little
Yeah,
stuff like that they could have included in Doom 2005 and just didn't. Um,
right, right,
yeah, a lot
exactly.
of little neat things like that in this movie. So they dock their ship and they go inside and they realize that there's no one left on this base except for
A handful of people.
Dr.
Doctor
Betruger?
Evil.
Bet
Oh yeah, yeah. Betruger. He's also the bad guy in Doom 3.
okay. He looks
But that's
like of course he is. Of course it's based off of Doom 3.
Doom 3.
Um,
It's yeah, of course it is. Because no, you can't make a movie about the good Doom games. That'd be too much.
so Dr. Betruger is there and some other doctor who is completely inconsequential to the plot. I don't even
Like you
remember who
see
she
her
is.
and you're like, you're gonna die.
Yeah,
You're
and you're
gonna
gonna die
to prove
soon.
a point.
Um,
Yeah, you're not making it past the 40-minute mark.
and then
Um,
they after this it's once again very Alien and also very Doom 2005 where they kind of walk around these hallways and they look at different things and then the zombie men show up and
Oh, I want to say they find like the Marines who were originally there, and they find one. They take his tags, and his name is William Blaskovich, which is the main character from Wolfenstein, which was made by the guys who did Doom.
oh neat.
Which is that was a really fun reference. I don't know if it's a fan theory or if it got confirmed, but the idea is that Doom Guy is actually the great 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 grandson of Blazkowicz, who fought in World War II. It's a whole thing. I'll talk you through that when you start playing Wolfenstein.
Okay.
But yeah, that was a neat reference. And yeah, like I said, the movie just kind of turns into walk into area, shoot things, and then do that a few more times until there's something that resembles a plot that happens.
Which is really all this movie needs to be.
Like you don't. I'm not expecting Oscar-winning philosophical arguments from Doom Annihilation.
Although it does try. Josh, it does try.
Does it?
Yeah, kinda. With the chaplain, all of the stuff with the chaplain felt very like spiritual and all that kind of stuff. We find out that Doom Lady's mom was a religious woman, and she
Yes.
died presumably of cancer or something. She was in a hospital.
Just
She
some sickness.
Yeah.
She has like a necklace.
generic sickness, which implies that the director of this movie saw Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh my god!
And so he
Tony Giglio,
yeah
something like that.
Tony
I will say,
Tony Gigolo.
I want to shout out Tony Gigolo because he at least made a better movie than Paul W.S. Anderson has in at least 20 years.
That's true. I would say this is probably to date the second best video game movie. I'm not counting
Also-
Detective Pikachu because I feel like I know Pokemon is a video game, but I feel like that's barely based on the game and it's more based off of the cartoons.
It didn't adapt. It didn't adapt a game because you
Right.
can't really adapt those games because they're
Right.
they're RPGs. They're just like, oh, do what you want, find these things. But it was based on the world that it built, so to speak.
Right. So I'm not counting Detective Pikachu. You've got Sonic and then Doom Annihilation. That's what you're working with, folks. Those are the two best video game adaptations.
Yeah.
Do people like
what-
the
what-
Resident Evil movies?
The first one's kind of okay. Now you guys know what we're watching for next week.
I hope not.
Oh no, I'm making you. This is my revenge for all of the God Awful movies that you made me watch.
I made
over
you
the
watch
years.
one.
Yeah, okay, so Billy. But the first Resident Evil movie I think is considered kind of okay, and then everything after that's just like direct DVD garbage.
Gotcha. Like this movie. So
Yeah, right.
So we find
Right,
out that
and
Doom
so
Lady's mom was a woman of faith and gives her this cross. They find a chaplain on board. They fight some more of the zombies. I'm just gonna call them zombies because I feel weird calling them zombie men.
Right, yeah. Zombie pigmen.
Zombie pigmen from Minecraft. They fight them, and then they go back. They're able to get somewhere safe. I think maybe they're back on the ship, but I can't really tell. And so
No, you're missing out the best part. You're missing out the best part. Where one of them says, for some reason, oh, the only tools that they have on board are a chainsaw. And then about 10 minutes later, Doom Lady uses the chainsaw on like 3 people.
And it's a brilliant scene. I
Oh,
love
it's
the
fantastic.
chainsaw scene. It's
It
the
actually
action.
looks really good.
The action is kind of sloppy, but the effects hold up. I say hold
Yeah,
up. The effects are good, and she's like drenched in blood. It's a super cool
yeah.
scene. Um,
There's a part where she like trips one up and like shoves the chainsaw and starts sawing it in half, and it's like blood sprays all over her. It genuinely really good effects.
yeah, and it's
Um,
very very Doom 2016.
and they also I want to shout this out too because it was one of my favorite lines in the movie. One that I think it's the Australian dude who runs away with every fight. He goes, "I'm too young to die," and then the guy after that, who's I don't remember any of these lines. He's like a big black dude, and he's meant
That's
to be like the
Akua.
badass, Akura, and he's shooting these things, and he says to no one because all of his teammates are dead by this point. He goes, "I'm your ultra nightmare."
No, yes, but here's what makes that line better. Australian guy said that earlier on the ship. They reused that. They were so proud of that line, they used it twice. Because
And it's
Australian guy on the ship is
brilliant.
talking about aliens, and he's talking about how he believes in aliens, and he's sure that this distress call came from aliens. And so they're all getting their guns ready, and they're ready to go, and they're ready to roll out. And he says, "Well, I'll bet you this, mate. If I run into an alien, I'm gonna pop them. I'm gonna pop one in them. I'm their ultra nightmare." And then that line was so great. The writers of this
They said
movie
it
loved that
again.
line so much that they used it again in the same movie from a different character.
And also, like, yeah, those are the difficulty settings on Doom games. But it's so funny to hear a guy like with genuine heart believing what he says go, "I'm your ultra nightmare" to zombie men who then kill him 3 seconds after he says that line.
Yeah, it's great. What's
Yeah.
the middle setting?
Oh,
I'm too young to die is easy. Or
yeah.
Ultra Nightmare is the hardest.
I think it's not just normal, is it?
I don't think so.
It's Hurt Me Plenty.
Nobody says "hurt me plenty" in this movie.
Oh, do you know how great it would have been if Doom Lady was like chainsawing one of those people? It jumps on her, so she holds it out. It's pinning her to the ground. She's chainsawing her, and she's like, "Hurt me plenty."
There's probably a
what
reason
a-
they skipped that one.
what a movie. But yeah, like half of the Marines die. It's Australian dude, Doom Lady, scientist guy, and
Short blue hair lady.
blue-haired lady who speaks French.
Yeah,
And
sometimes.
they mock her for learning French in cryo sleep,
Which it's
which
like,
I don't. Uh, she learned an extra language. Like I don't know what you want to make fun of there.
but it's also they're not making fun of the fact that she learned it. They're making fun of the fact that she learned it during cryosleep when they all learned their extra languages in person. And it's just like,
She took the shortcut. Like she
Yeah.
did the smart thing.
yeah, it's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then
Go for it.
they make fun of her having blue hair. It's all fascinating.
Yeah. They all go back to the ship after a few hand-to-hand scenes where they use like kung fu whips, which is again absolutely incredible. They go to the ship. There's the captain who's not part of the crew either, but he's doing his own thing. He's doing his best impersonation of Danny McBride from Alien Covenant.
He's the best character in the movie, I think.
But
Um,
well, I like the captain. He seemed good.
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. I like the captain. The captain's the best character in the movie. Joan would have been a good antagonist if the actress who played Joan could act. Doom Lady would have been a neat
I did not
character
know.
to follow.
I did not know. I did not know this, but she was Scottish.
Yeah, there's no
Like,
way
the
this wasn't a
actress is Scottish.
British production. There's no way.
Oh no, I looked it up. She's Scottish. The captain's English, I think. The scientist guy is English. The evil scientist guy is English. There's no way.
So here's my question: as a director, why not just make your characters British? Do British people not get to go to Mars?
Apparently not. We're too busy trying to leave the EU in 2059 or whatever. I guess it's like I don't know. I guess it appeals to American audiences more that your characters are American.
Does it?
I, I,
I don't think we
would it
care.
be?
I mean, Doctor Who's
Oh,
really
would it?
popular over here.
Yeah, I guess, but like Doctor Who also takes place in England. Like I
Yeah,
don't
but
know.
this
Maybe
movie
it's
takes
like
place on Mars, so it's like
yes, they should be speaking Martian. They should be
right.
speaking Cantonese from Futurama.
Maybe it's
Um,
because Doom Guy is a Marine.
Right. Well,
Um,
that's my only thought is that they're Marines, and we don't particularly have Marines. We have the SAS, which is
right.
our like version of it.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. And maybe because Doom Guy in the games is a Marine, they decided that they needed to make these characters Marines.
saying that
Um,
we have the Royal Marines, like they're but they're I guess they're I don't know. Maybe it's just because Doom is kind of seen as an American franchise, so if you try and like put British people as the main characters, get people think it's too jarring.
maybe.
Um,
I don't know. That just feels weird to me. But anyway, it was a
yeah,
detriment to
right,
the movie. Um,
right, no, absolutely.
so we're on the ship and everybody's talking, and then the evil Doctor Man, Doctor Bergruder, says these are aliens, and then Chaplain, T-shirt priest, speaks up and he says, "No, these are demons. I saw them. They're demons. They're real life demons. Demon, demon, demon." And then that's when we're introduced to the fact that these are demons, which we knew because we are fans of Doom. But other people may not have known who aren't fans of Doom, I guess. And that's kind of the end of that scene. It just sort of wraps up really normal. Doom Lady gets really mad at um, British good-looking scientist. I'm trying to think of a good nickname for him, but I can't think of one. She gets upset with him because he's
Sorry.
like, "What are you guys working on this base?" And he just got there, so like it's not his fault. Uh,
Yeah, like I mean, he probably he goes like, oh, we found a teleporter to Mars, as you do. Uh, that was about it. Like that's all he knows. Which I don't know. It doesn't seem like that big a deal, and you could have asked that at any point too. They never really ask why we go into this place. They're just like, oh, we need to go here and check for survivors.
right. Um, and I don't know. It's everything in this movie is very circumstantial. And so after that scene happens, they're hanging out on the ship. The ship's captain, not the captain of the Marine Brigade, the ship's captain is dead at this point, because Daisy killed him. Somehow these demons can take
No,
over computers.
yeah, Daisy gets like corrupted, I guess, and she starts speaking in demon, and then one of the imps kills him. But like they never explain how Daisy became evil because it's not like evil scientist guy got to her and hacked her because he doesn't enter the ship I think ever really.
Right.
Um, he does enter at one point, but does he? I can't remember. But like he never even then she gets hacked pretty early on in the movie. Like they're all still in the middle of the base and she starts and she's like, I can't let you do that, Dave. And she goes full HAL 3000 and kills him by laying an imp on board, and then the imp decides to hide for dramatic effect. Uh, uh, and then Doom Lady comes into the room, and she's like, "Hey, where's the captain?" Uh, and Daisy's like, "Oh, he's in the room with you." So she sees that he's been murdered. At the same time, Priest Dude is having a conversation with one of the generic Marines, and the Marine dies because he gets stabbed by the imp, which kind of spoils the imp like reveal, I guess, because he dies, it shows the imp, and then it shows the dramatic shot of the imp, and I'm like, you could have maybe switched those scenes around a little bit, would have made it a little bit, more
Right.
dynamic.
I think so. It's almost like all of the different demons come in waves. And we only really see the zombies and the imps in this. We don't get to see any of the others. It's almost like they were saving those for a sequel, which makes
Which
sense.
we actually might be getting. I
Right.
think they have a script and they've started shooting.
Which I think is really cool. I would genuinely like to see a sequel to this movie.
No, absolutely.
I enjoyed it enough where I would like to see where the story goes from there. A lot
Oh,
of
story, quote unquote.
quote unquote story, right? So as they're fighting, it's revealed that the demons in this speak Samaritan, which as a Bible nerd is neat to me, because the Samaritans in the Old Testament, the Samaritans and the Jews didn't get along. The Israelites, who are like modern day Jews, but historically Israelites, they and the Samaritans were sort of competing over the promised land. They both thought that God promised them the same land, and so it's neat that the demons in this would speak that language. Now, Samaritans really, to that extent, don't exist today. They've kind of just combined with Jewish people. There is still the land of Samaria, but the race of Samaritans that spoke this language don't exist. And so it's neat to the implication that like the demonic possession, the enemy of the Bible, one of the enemies of the Bible, was given the language was given to them by demons. I found that kind of interesting.
Oh, nice. And they even say what are they? What's the name of it again?
Samaritan.
Yeah, it's like Samaritan, but different enough. Like you can tell it's Samaritan, but it's not quite the same version, which is just a nice little touch.
Right. Now, little details like that are pretty neat.
Yeah, like it's not too on the nose to the point where like your eyes roll in the back of the head and they're like, oh, Jesus was the Doomslayer.
Right. Right. It's and I
I'd
think
watch that
something.
movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you kidding me? I think I think little details like that, when you're talking about demons in a movie, you don't want to go too much, because then it gets like, oh, okay, like, all right, I get it. But when you have little hints of stuff like that, I think it plays into it neat, because ultimately demons are a biblical idea. So having like the chaplain character, he never felt too on the nose either. He felt a little too philosophical for my liking, but he never felt like too on the nose with the biblical stuff.
Yeah.
There's just enough of it sprinkled in to make it work for this kind of movie.
But it doesn't feel offensive to religion, more just sort of like, hey, it's kind of neat to tie this stuff in.
Right, yeah. So at this point, we get the reveal, because they're all in this room trying to get the power back on. They decide, well, we've got one option to get off this place. Reserve power is at 1%. We've got to get the power back on, or we're all gonna die. So they go to get the power back on. While they're in the power room, good-looking scientist gets the power on. Dr. Bergruder locks them in the power room with some imps. The imps attack them. He runs away. Everybody dies except for good-looking scientist and Doom Lady. They are able to get out. They go back to the ship. They get some more weapons. They pick up keys from different people, which is a plot point of the games. And it's just it's really neat.
Like red, yellow, and blue key cards. It's also just genuinely really neat because they have red, yellow, and blue key cards, which is the same as the game. And they even look like the ones out of the game, and it's just a nice little fun detail. That again kind of goes towards this idea that the people making this seem to just like the franchise of games, and they're like, hey, what if we did a side story to the games? Not even like a main story, but like a nice little side thing that's going on.
They also look like credit cards that they've glued tinfoil to. The cards looked so cheap. They were the same design from the cards from 2016, and they have the colors of the cards from the original games, which it's little details like that are super neat. One of them, the blue card, opens up the weapon room that has literally one weapon in it. And
the only weapon.
It's the only one in this room. Like it's supposed to be like this arsenal room, like the one from Doom 2005.
It's a closet.
It's a closet, and it's only got one weapon in it, the BFG 9000, which is at least closer to the BFG from Doom than the one from 2005 was. But at the same time, it just feels so weak compared to the one from the game.
I can't wait for the Doom movie that we were talking about last week to be made and have like a BFG that feels like a BFG where, you shoot it and a load of things die. With this one, it's just like it's like it shoots a ping pong ball at someone, and one person may die.
They had the opportunity to save the BFG for the end of the movie, for the climax, and then have her just demolishing these imps. But they didn't do it, which was so disappointing to me, because it just hits one of them and then they fall over and die. At least we get to see it used on a person in this movie. That part is nice. We don't get to see it used on anyone in Doom 2005, so at least we get to see it used. The gun feels super cheap, though. There's no weight to it at all. It's literally just like a water.
She just like pulls it out.
Yeah, it's a water gun that they've spray painted silver. It's real cheap looking, which I get it, but at the same time, it's like it's literally the most important thing in the movie.
Like this is they go back just for this weapon.
Yeah.
And then and at this point I think it's just scientist Stone and Doom Lady who are left.
Yes.
Everyone else is like either dead or it's the one evil scientist who's trying to open a portal to Mars because whatever.
Well, he's trying to open up the portal to hell because when he came through the portal to go to Mars to test it, because he decided to test it himself at the beginning of the movie, and when he did that, he got possessed, or something. He got convinced. He died coming through. The demons resurrected him, and when they resurrected him, they did it in exchange for him opening the portal so that they could come through and retake Earth because Earth is rightfully theirs, which is another biblical reference. And so with all of that, there's some stuff in Revelation about that. And so with all of that in mind, he's trying to open this portal. They're trying to get down to keep him from opening the portal because Doom Lady and Dr. Stone still don't know what's going on. They still don't know that these things are actually demons. They're under the assumption that they're aliens.
So, yeah, there's those two, and then there's blue-haired lady and Australian guy. And as when we find out that the scientist guy is taking an evil turn, he specifically calls out like Doom Lady let a terrorist go for some reason, and then couldn't capture him again, and now they all hate her because of that.
The whole squad, they don't hate her because of that. They hate her because the whole squadron got punished for her actions. She basically, I think the way she talks about it, what I got from it was she froze and she couldn't capture the terrorist when he was on the loose, and he got away because of her actions. But they try to frame it as treason, and the whole squadron got in trouble. That's how they got sent to Phobos in the first place. So they go to this elevator. Everybody on the Marines is dead except for Doom Lady and Dr. Stone. They go to open up the elevator, and Dr. Stone gets pulled in right as they're about to have a sweet moment that just felt very forced and out of nowhere, like they're about to fall in love and have children right there on Phobos.
She's like, oh yeah, I remembered that we dated. I remember every moment of it because I loved it so much. And then he dies.
Yeah, and then he gets turned into a demon, and she has to shoot and kill him.
Right.
And she does without any sort of remorse at all. She just kills the guy. And then Dr. Stone starts attacking her. She winds up killing Dr. Stone or shooting Dr. Stone. This is when we find out he's dead. Dr. Stone kicks her through the portal into hell, and then she fights presumably Satan.
Okay, so this is where I got confused. Because yeah, she shoots evil scientist guy too, but then he's like, you can't kill what is already dead. You know, a line straight out of Dracula.
Right.
And then he uses the Force and pushes her through the portal.
Correct.
She's in hell. There's a load of imp-like. I mean, they're imp-light. You know, they don't look as heavy as the other ones. They look a lot.
What is the one from Doom? There is an imp that can't throw fireballs in Doom, right?
No, there's imps that throw fireballs, and then there's imps that fly, but they're just, they're still imps. This felt like the ones in hell felt like the imps from the game. Like, they felt lighter, more jumpy, sort of more lean, and then the ones in the movie feel very heavy because they're kind of big rubber suit.
Right. Well, the designs of them looked different enough.
Yeah, they looked really cool.
Um,
They also threw fireballs, which was nice. Which
right.
is, a step up from doing 2005.
Now, would you say that the guy, the main guy there, is that supposed to be Satan or is it supposed to be a Baron? Because my
Okay,
brain
well,
went straight to Baron.
so this is my first thought was, okay, based on everything else that I've seen from this, that isn't going to be how they're going to do, a Baron of Hell, because they seem to be, for CGI stuff at least, keeping quite close to, the games.
At least
If they're going to do
2016,
a
yeah.
Baron of Hell, right? Yeah, at least 2016. My first thought was, is this meant to be an arc file? Because that's a guy from the game too. The arc file looks more like the imps in the practical imps, like in design wise. But then I got curious, so I looked up the plot on Wikipedia or Doom Wiki, one of the two, and it classifies that thing as the Demon Overlord. So I think it's just an entirely original,
Okay.
piece.
Well, like I said, that would make sense. That's
Yeah.
kind of the idea I
It,
got from it. Like that's the guy in charge. That's literally Satan.
it looks really cool.
It was a very very cool design. Even if it was supposed to be a Baron, I'd be cool with it because it's a neat design.
No, it looks really sick. And then she kills it instantly.
Yeah, she just hits it with the BFG and it's done. And
Yeah, with
now,
the she also has the power of faith because she remembers that she's wearing her mum's necklace.
right, which it doesn't really come into play except for the fact that she like believes in herself.
Right, which that I'm saying I'm waiting for the Doom movie that features just Jesus killing all of the demons on Mars.
I can't wait. It takes place
I love it.
in the first
I love
century Rome.
it. Yeah, it ends with him being crucified by the demons possessing the Romans.
Right. Um wow. So so she starts blasting the imps that are there and she manages to escape. She jumps through the portal expecting to be back on Mars, but turns out she's on Earth. And when she's
Right,
on
which
Earth,
is
which was a
that's
really
a
neat
neat idea of
twist.
how. Yeah, that's a really neat idea of how like the teleporters work too. Because they mentioned earlier, it's not like you go from point A to point B. It's you go from point A to point C, and you have to walk from there to another place to get to point B. Like
Right.
that's a. I think that's how Nightcrawler teleports in X-Men. Like
Oh,
he
interesting.
teleports to another dimension entirely, and then he has to go back through.
You're a nerd, Josh.
Yeah, no, I am. This movie basically, the end of this movie basically takes place in the Nether.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. And so she jumps back through, and she's on Earth, and then there are some scientists there, and they start, they start trying to calm her down, and she's like, "Hey, listen, you've got to shut this portal down. It's wild in there. Dr. Progruder's a liar, although she never says that, which she should have, but she doesn't. The doctors on the other end are like, look, we're waiting on Dr. Progruder to come through, and they're just the worst." And they give her a horse tranquilizer or whatever to make her pass out. And as she's doing that, the portal starts rumbling, and then cut to black credits. Which this movie had the gall to end on a cliffhanger.
Like I just give them props for that. Like
I
there's no other way. That like the amount, the sheer balls on these guys to have a cliffhanger on their direct to DVD movie that they didn't even think was gonna make, its its budget back. And the fact that it's paying off because they're getting a sequel.
yeah.
It
I mean, part of me
blows my
wishes it
mind.
hadn't ended on a cliffhanger, but I really like the setup of this movie because you could really easily turn Joan into actual Doom Lady if you wanted to.
Oh,
Just
absolutely, yeah.
have
I
you
mean, knowing what video game fandoms are like, I can already see how many people are going to be mad at that decision.
well, they were
But if
already
they did
mad.
it,
They were already mad that she was the main character of this movie anyway.
well, and they also mad that this movie was made without any kind of help from the guys who make the games, which apparently they were like offered, and they were like, "Hey, if you want to talk to us and actually have some input on this stuff, we'd love to hear what you say." And they were just like, "No." we don't like this.
They're like,
But
yeah,
good luck.
we did this once and it turned out really bad. We don't want to do this
we
ever
tried this.
again.
We tried this before, and they just showed us a 15-minute clip of a guy in a first-person, camera. It was really weird.
We were like, yeah, that's cool. Is the whole movie going to be like that? And they said, no, not at all. Um,
But yeah,
but yeah,
that's how the movie ends.
the thing that people say, they don't refer to the main character as Joan or Doom Lady. They refer to her as just female protagonist. That's what all the Reddit boys say about this movie.
That makes more sense. The Reddit boys.
The Reddit boys, they say like, oh, it's the female protagonist, and yeah. But I really like her as this would be a really neat setup for her being Doom Lady. Like, give her the armor and everything, and have her be your silent protagonist, like back on Earth as the demons come through. Or jump forward 10 years in the future and she's like Mad Max style scavenging this Earth that's been taken over by demons. I don't know, but I really like what this movie set up.
I do want to. So the Tony Gigolo, he seems like a very nice guy based on what I'm seeing on Twitter. A lot of people have asked him about like, hey, you gonna do a sequel to this? And he's like, hey, we actually made so much more money than we were expecting to. So yeah, probably we're actually making it now. And someone asked if the sequel would include the Doomsday, and he said it's one of his top priorities. So,
Oh, neat.
We might actually get that Doom movie we were talking about. It's just
Maybe.
gonna be direct to DVD.
It's just gonna make it's gonna cost $4 and a box of pizza to make.
It's gonna be a shadow that you can't see because it cuts too quickly. If the sequel was like a Kickstarter, I think I'd actually donate to it.
Yeah,
Genuinely.
no, me too. Because I did really enjoy this movie. I mean, it was super low budget, and for that reason, I would only recommend this to people who are fans of the game. This movie was definitely not made for people who aren't, just strictly because of the budget. But outside of that, if you can get over that stuff, it's a really fun watch. It's so much better.
If you're a fan of like just kind of B movies with heart,
Yes.
then you'd probably like this. It's got a lot of heart into it.
There was nothing ever in the movie that, because the thing I look for in a bad movie that I like love to hate is if it makes me laugh when it's not supposed to. And this movie never did that. There was nothing in this movie where I was laughing when I wasn't supposed to be laughing, which is always a good sign. If I'm having the appropriate emotions, if I'm having the appropriate emotions that I'm supposed to have in your scene, the closest I came was the love scene between Dr. Stone and Doom Lady.
And even they seem to be self-aware enough to be like, yeah, people don't care about this.
Yeah, I mean, well, of course they were. They killed him off in like the next scene. Like, it was great. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this movie if you're a fan of the game. If you're not, maybe not, unless you're just a fan of like low budget schlock, and then which case, yeah, watch it. I'm excited for the sequel that we're probably getting, simply because I feel like they're going to introduce more demons from the game. I want to see a cacodemon.
They'll probably get like a higher budget. I have to imagine.
I would think so.
I did have a question. Well, I say that you had a question that you wanted to ask me earlier about video game movies, and I'm very interested to hear what it is.
My question was going to be, would you consider? I mentioned it in the discussion. Would you consider this the second best video game movie outside of Sonic? Would you consider it to be the best one outside of Sonic?
That's a tough question.
I know. That's why I wanted to ask you. I said it just very confidently in our discussion, but I'm really kind of struggling with that because I don't want to say it strictly because of the budget, but I guess it kind of is.
Well, that's the thing. It's tough to say because there's so many video game movies out there, and when I haven't seen all of them, I know most of them. Like it's really tough. Because I haven't seen Sonic either, so I couldn't actually comment on how that ranks as a video game movie. I have seen
Sonic, and Sonic's good. Sonic's a good movie.
Right. Well, that's the thing. We've also Rampage came out. I meant to see that because that's technically a video game movie, but I never saw that. I've seen. I want to watch Assassin's Creed because I've heard a lot about that, and I'm interested to see why that felt so bad.
That's one we've been talking about doing on the show for a while. So why don't we do that for next week?
Okay, yeah, that's fine. My current top video game movie might be Prince of Persia because that was such a fun movie
I
to
do like Prince
watch.
of Persia. I didn't realize Prince of Persia was. I thought it was based off a book.
No, Prince of Persia is a long. Prince of Persia is an old game. Came out, I think, early 2000s, maybe late 90s.
Gotcha. I thought Prince of
Um,
Persia was a book. Well, interesting. All right, Josh, we got
yeah,
to get
but
out of here. We're done.
okay. My top video game movie of all time is Postal by Uwe Boll.
Mine is the Super Mario Brothers movie, which I have seen.
But yeah, we thanks for listening this far. If you got this far, we hope that you've enjoyed the episode. And if you'd like to join us next week for when we talk about Assassin's Creed, by all means.